I, in my wisdom, suggested that since the witness who was in the taxi, that is the murdered lady's sister, saw everything, heard everything in the taxi, she may well be a good candidate for hypnosis. And of course at that time everybody burst out laughing. However, Joe Beattie contacted me personally and said, "Here son, that's a good idea." She was able to remember quite a few details of the conversation in the taxi from Banalan to her home in Yoker.
The police did tell us that Jeannie had been a vital witness because she had spent so long in the company of this man that she was able to give him a detailed description as to his appearance. And then they come out with the thing that really sparked it all off for me when they said that he quoted extensively from the Bible, and they knew that his name was John, so I thought, that'll do me. And I just went on to the desk to the news editor and I said, "This is a terrific story here. I suggest we call this man Bible John."
The police were so confident about Jean's description, they approached Lennox Patterson of Glasgow School of Art to create a portrait of Bible John, the face that was to haunt Glasgow for years to come.
When it was shown to Jeannie, she gave an involuntary gasp and said, "My God, I've got a feeling in my stomach that that is him."
He was said to have had a military bearing, so they started interviewing soldiers who were home on leave at the time. Some thought he might even have been a police officer.
This is the fellow we're looking for.
It touched everybody. I mean, hairdressers were interviewed, dentists were interviewed. Possibly there wouldn't be one family in the west of Scotland that didn't have a relative or didn't have a friend who was somehow interviewed by police. That's how wide the investigation was.
In what was one of the most unusual lines of inquiry, police officers were instructed to take to the dance floor to try to track down the killer.
There was a connection with the Barrowland and the suspect and the victims. It was decided to flood the place with police officers inside and out. So much so that the policemen were referred to by the local punters as the Partick Police Formation dancing team.
You actually went and danced other girls in the dance hall, talking to them, telling them who you were and telling them why you were there.
And the idea was that if Jeannie, that was the third victim's sister, saw the man she identified or would identify as Bible John, there'd be plenty of people there to take hold of him and he wouldn't escape.
I used to accompany Jean to the dancing. Jeannie was very popular among the male dancers, and I could stand back and say to Jeannie, "You go and enjoy yourself dancing. If you see anyone like the suspect, you know I'm over here."
At first it seemed that Jean would be an invaluable bonus to the inquiry. But were police looking in the wrong place?
Everything we were doing was based on Jean's statement, and I felt that was wrong. And I felt there was too much emphasis being placed on that statement and the way the inquiry was being led along by this.
Marine murderer in Beattie.
The man in charge of the hunt for Bible John was legendary Glasgow cop Joe Beattie, but the case was to prove a massive challenge, even for him.
Joe Beattie was a very dedicated officer, and he worked long hours, as many hours as his men did. But they always told me that if he came face to face with Bible John, he would be able to recognise him. And quite often you would see him pull a wee magnifying glass out, look at a photograph and say, "No, his teeth are too long," and he would throw it away. So that's not him, and he would rule people out of the inquiry by photograph himself.
The next thing is, who sent that boy in?
I sent him in, Mr. Beattie.
That was the boy last night. Well, he was very good drawing. He was excellent, I would say, except he was a little short in height.
Joe Beattie came to the flat and said to me, "Sorry, son, but can you go into the bedroom and strip off?" And he came in and searched my body, obviously, for any marks or anything like that. And when he'd finished, he slapped me on the backside and said, "I'm sorry, old fella, it had to be done, but I knew the minute I met you it was nothing to do with you."
It's a lonely job, you're on your own, everybody, the public thinks you're wonderful if you clear the crime up, you're an idiot if you don't. But you do need the luck, and I would say, thinking back to when Joe Beattie was working there almost 24 hours a day, in fact 7 days a week, he didn't get that lucky break that you really need.
They couldn't see the wood for the trees, I think, to be honest with you. And all the eggs were placed in the one basket, namely Jeannie Langford's recollection of what had happened that night.
She was desperate to help us catch the killer of her sister. There's no doubt about that. But the situation was, I felt that really there was probably a situation where she was trying to give too much help